What's going on, everybody? Back again today, bringing you another video. Today I want to talk about something Marvel related. The past month, pretty much all, well, not all, but the vast majority of videos that I've put up on the channel have been DC related, and I've just been in a really big DC mood. I still am, but usually this is what tends to happen. I get into either a Marvel mood or a DC mood for like a month straight. And then after a while, I start to think like, oh, I wonder what I'm missing out on in Marvel, or I wonder what I'm missing out on in DC. So I wanted to, take a minute, do a video on some DC stuff, talk about my favorite Marvel character, at least as of right now. We'll see how it goes into the future. Anyway, it's Daredevil. Daredevil's my favorite Marvel character, mainly because, don't get me wrong, I really love the more like, the world is at stake and the universe is being brought to an end and there's some great cosmic entity that the Avengers or the Justice League have to fight. I like that stuff, but when it comes to that's like my stuff for like teams. Like, I want to see the Justice League fight that. I don't want to see a single character go up against that. When it comes to like single characters and picking a favorite single character, I tend to like the more street level heroes. Like Daredevil, Batman. Well, Batman is on the Justice League, but Batman when he's just in Gotham City doing detective work, catching serial killers and murderers, people trying to ruin Gotham, destroy Gotham, this and that. Marvel doesn't exactly have a version of Batman that's like quite the same. There are a lot of characters that share things similar to, like they have attributes and stuff in common with Batman. Namely, the biggest two I would say are Daredevil and Moon Knight. And the Moon Knight series, they've announced it on Disney Plus. Oscar Isaac is playing Mark Spector, the Moon Knight. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. I've never read any Moon Knight comics, mainly because I would like to start as early as possible, but at the same time, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing in comic book stores for Moon Knight is like old, like 70s old. And we're going to get into some of that with the Daredevil stuff we talk about today. I don't really care for comic book stuff that old anymore. I can usually do mid to late 80s up to like present time. Anything before that, and it just gets kind of like, it's a little too retro for me. So I've been trying to find some of the 2006 Moon Knight series to read. I haven't found any of it in stores. I'm really trying to avoid ordering it offline. I'd rather give my money to a comic book shop. But we'll see. Maybe I'll find it, maybe I won't. But today we're talking about Daredevil, specifically the most notable comic book run of Daredevil, which is Frank Miller's Daredevil. And you can pretty much get the whole thing in 4 trade paperbacks. First thing you're going to start with is Man Without Fear, Daredevil Man Without Fear. This is written by Frank Miller with art by Romita Jr., John Romita Jr., I believe is his name. It's Frank Miller's really solid Daredevil origin story. It is the definitive Daredevil origin story, and it's what was mostly used for all of this. All of Frank Miller's run is pretty much what was used as inspiration for the Netflix Daredevil series. So if you like the Netflix Daredevil series, this is probably what you want to read in terms of comics for Daredevil. All the way down to like, before he ever puts on the yellow costume, he's wearing like the black, almost like ninja outfit. Yeah, so this is where you start with Daredevil, in my opinion. From there, and the art is great. John Romita Jr., he does great art, great comic book art. I've read his Batman stuff. I've read Spider-Man. I've read Superman. He also did Kick-Ass. If anyone likes the Kick-Ass comics, his artwork is great. But after that, and that is a more modern book. When was this published? The origin story. Almost went right past it. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. Originally published in magazine form as Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, number 1 through 5. Doesn't really say. The earliest date that I'm finding in here looks like 2010. Someone let me know if that's wrong, but what I'm seeing in here is the earliest date it mentions is 2010, which means that this is Frank Miller's Daredevil comic book run from like 70s, 80s, I'm not sure which. It's definitely older stuff. So that means after he did all this, he went back and got the chance to do his origin story. But it doesn't matter, you would still want to start with the origin story, even though he wrote it later. But after that, you're going to get into these books here. Let's see here. They all have a similar cover design. It's just called Daredevil by Frank Miller, Klaus Janson. It's pretty much Frank Miller's entire run on the Daredevil comic collected into 3 trade paperbacks, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. This is where you get classics, Daredevil going up against Kingpin, Daredevil first encountering and going up against the Hand, Ninja Clan, Daredevil going up against Bullseye and Gladiator, Bullseye killing Elektra. That is in here, I believe, or it's in this next thing that we're going to talk about. But yeah, that's all part of the Frank Miller story. So if that's your kind of stuff, then this is what's for you. I am going to say this. Like I said about a minute ago, when we get into older comics, like older than the mid-'80s, that's when, you know, it's just kind of dopey and corny. Like, I hate when you have a visual medium of entertainment. Whether it's a video game, a TV show, a movie, or a comic. Anything where you can see what's happening in the story. It is illustrated in some way. It is animated. It is live action. You can see what's happening in the story, yet character dialogue still feels the need to like spell it out for you. Like Daredevil will do, Daredevil like throw his billy club at an enemy and the enemy will dodge it. And then some other supporting character or spectator or Daredevil himself in his own head will say like, he was able to dodge it. No shit. I just watched it. I just saw it. Anyway, they don't do it anymore. They don't do that stuff anymore. But the fact that it ever existed just means that like the human race was retarded at one point. Like, holy shit. Why would you need to have something like that? It's like, he was able to dodge all of his attacks. Oh yeah, I know. I saw it in the picture or I watched it on the TV. I just saw it happen. I don't need you to tell me that it happened. I just saw it. The fact that that was ever a thing is ridiculous. That kind of stuff is annoying. And also the more like, just the really corny, like, golly gee willikers, Batman, shit like that. Or, you're never gonna get away with this, you son of a gun. Like that kind of like the fucking fuckity fuck talk of the olden times. That shit just, oh my god, it gets under my skin and it bothers me. Oh, it irks me sometimes. So at times this was a struggle to get through, but there was more good than bad. These 3 volumes are a solid, I'm gonna give them a 7 out of 10. This is like a 10 out of 10. It's like the perfect Daredevil origin story. These 3, the Frank Miller, 7 out of 10 just because it's so fucking old and antiquated and outdated and fuck me, man. Yeah. And then we get into quite possibly the greatest piece of Daredevil fiction ever made, and that is Daredevil Born Again. This is the culmination of everything Frank Miller ever did in Daredevil and built up to. Karen Page, Daredevil's ex-girlfriend, sells his secret identity for drug money, and it makes its way to Kingpin, and Kingpin uses it to not just go after Matt Murdock and kill him, he uses it to completely dismantle his life. This is I'm pretty sure this is actually where Bullseye kills Elektra, although I am not 100% positive. This is where we find out about Matt Murdock's mom being a nun. Basically, all of season 3 of the Netflix Daredevil series was like them trying to do a Born Again, an adaptation of this story. But of course, they made certain tweaks and adjustments to it to make it fit their show and the continuity that they had already established on that show. This shows, it has a character, I can't remember if it's Bullseye or some other character, but it has a character where like he goes up and to try and fight Matt Murdock and kill Matt Murdock, and he wears a Daredevil costume. Similar to how in season 3, Kingpin had Bullseye wear the Daredevil costume. Daredevil, in this story, he interacts with the Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America. The one character from Jessica Jones, the military guy who takes the pills to become kind of superhuman, cannot for the life of me remember his name. He's in here. This is just, even though it's a little older, this story, I need to reread this actually. Looking at it now, I really want to reread it. It's just filled with so much great action, and the story is great. It just shows what happens. Like, Daredevil's life becomes completely unhinged by Kingpin, and he has to fight his way back from the very bottom of the barrel and put his life back together. And yeah, it's crazy. He doesn't exactly expose him. That's a later story arc in Daredevil, where his secret identity gets exposed. Kingpin doesn't expose it. He doesn't expose to the press or the law enforcement that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. No, he just uses this information to wreck his life. It's so good. And to be quite honest, if you've like watched the Netflix Daredevil show, or you have a basic understanding of the character and who he is, you could probably just skip to this. It is nice to own the complete like Frank Miller Daredevil collection and have read it all. But like I said, like just due to how old and outdated some of the writing and dialogue is and the writing style, this stuff was a bit of a grind to get through. However, like the two ends of it, it starts chronologically, it starts strong with the origin story, and Born Again is such a nice conclusion to Frank Miller's run on Daredevil. So great character, great stories for the most part. I recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. At the very least, check out Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, which is the origin story, and definitely check out Daredevil Born Again, which is the conclusion to Frank Miller's time writing Daredevil. It's really kind of breaks it down into like seasons 1, 2, and 3. Like this is for the origin story. That's for the most part season 1 of the Netflix show. Maybe like a little bit of volume 1 is also. And then volumes 2 and 3 of this are kind of season 2, which is fucking weird because season 2 is my favorite season of the show, but this is not my favorite Daredevil stuff. And then Born Again was pretty much season 3 of the show. So yeah, take that for what you will. And to be honest, the only reason I really didn't like season 3 was he never really wore the Daredevil costume. Like, you've got Daredevil wearing this black costume, and then his main, like, I get it, his main villain for that season was Kingpin again, but you also had Bullseye, but you never gave Bullseye his own suit. Bullseye's wearing Daredevil's suit. So it's like Daredevil's not dressed right. Bullseye's dressed as Daredevil, so he's not dressed. What the fuck's going on here? It would have been so easy for them to just go, let's not fuck around. Let's put Daredevil back in his costume, and let's give Bullseye his own shit to wear. That would have been much better, but it's not what we got, and the show's canceled now. I'm really optimistic for the rumors that Charlie Cox as Daredevil is going to show up in the next Spider-Man movie. Really hope that's the case. I don't know if it's even possible, but I would love to see Disney Plus consider bringing some of those shows back, namely Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Punisher. Luke Cage was okay. Iron Fist was whatever. And The Defenders was good simply because it led directly into Daredevil season 3. So yeah, but the Daredevil show, the Punisher show, and the Jessica Jones show, I would really like to see continued on Disney Plus, and there's really no reason that they can't. Like, you just, it's your character, Marvel, and like the Netflix's contract is up. Just give it a slightly different name. Like, instead of just calling it Daredevil, you call it Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. Boom. Like, and then on paper, like, you could call it season 1, but just set the story up to where it's season 4, and just go with it. Who the fuck cares? But anyway, you could even cast the same actors. Like, you could literally do this at Netflix and get away with it. So just do it, But yeah, great stuff from Daredevil for Frank Miller. Born Again it's like the best Daredevil story out there. Overall, some of his stories later on down the road get pretty good again. Who is the one that does later on? Kevin Smith has a pretty decent story arc called Guardian Devil. And then who writes Out? Out is written by Bendis and Malieve. So by the time you get to these guys' story art, like their run, Brian Michael Bendis and I don't know his last name or his first name, Alex Malieve. Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Malieve, their run on Daredevil, also really good once you get to this point. There's a weird 90s era in there where Daredevil wears that like black, silver, and red armored 90s costume, and he goes up against like Typhoid Mary and shit. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, but yeah. So that's my take on Frank Miller's Daredevil run in the comic books. I loved it. I recommend it. If you like Daredevil, if he's your favorite character, if he's not, you just want to know more about him, it's a great bit of Daredevil comic book stuff to read. Highly recommend it. So that's all I got for you guys in this video. If you liked what you saw here, please hit the like button. Check out some of my other videos on my channel. Maybe subscribe if you like. And other than that, I will see you guys next time.